welcome to our ride.
Off-roading.
We're headed to the Louisiana Beekeepers Association convention. Got a whole weekend of it. We got beautiful skies to look at on the way. We're just getting headed out Thursday afternoon just before dark. It started today, but couldn't be there for Thursday. Friday and Saturday we'll be there though. It'll be fun stuff. I'll try to share a little bit of it with you. There's the sunset. We're looking towards Louisiana state line. We're about at Stennis Space Center in Mississippi. It's gonna be about a 4.5 hour drive for us, something like that. Right in your face. Right across your face. And we're headed back home already because in my rush to get packed and get on the road, I forgot Mr. Ed's trophy. Stop number 1. We ain't on the road long, but
Long enough for me to have it up.
yeah, about 2.5 hours, I guess.
Put me in the car and I go to sleep.
She's good help driving. It's 10 o'clock. We're rolling up. She's checking us in. We're jacked up on caffeine, but still ready to go to bed.
Do it again. Sing for them.
This room echoes big time.
7 o'clock at night. I don't know what that
Everybody's gonna wonder what the baboon noise is.
You don't leave it at 1.
First people we see of the morning.
Oh, great.
Speakers.
That's not good to wake up to.
Well, they got bacon in here though.
Yeah.
Look who I run into. I was hoping to meet Crocodile Dundee, but he'll do.
I'm a little better than Crocodile Dundee.
I figured. Yeah.
Let me tell you a couple of things that are going on, not having anything to do with this. I'll get back to this in a minute. In the last year, the world has begun to mechanize pollination. They have something called drop copter. Have you heard of that? It's a drone that they load up with pollen, apple pollen, peach pollen, almond pollen, take your pick. They hover it over the tree, they go poof, and it drops pollen on the king blossom of all of those flowers, and the apple growers are happy because they have all of their king blossoms pollinated. The almond growers are happy because they get every blossom pollinated. The peach growers are happy because they get every blossom pollinated. And it costs less to rent than it does to rent 4 colonies of honeybees. It does a better job. The yield is increased. And the growers are looking at this as, where can I get more? This week, a company from Israel came out, and they won't tell us how they're doing it. It's mechanical and it's robotic, is what they're telling us. I'm going to guess it's a drone and it's the same thing, but it's the same thing in terms of not using bees for pollination. Better yield, you can do it 24/7. You don't care about cold days or windy days or rainy days, because if it rains today, I can go out tonight when it's done raining and do this. You need 2 people in an orchard and a little monitor with gizmo to run that drone over every tree. Poof, poof, poof. Back in California or wherever it is they're from, they've got what they're calling pollen orchards. They're growing these trees 3 feet apart. They're harvesting their bazillion blossoms per tree. They're harvesting the blossoms, harvesting the pollen, putting the pollen in the drop copter or whatever it is they're using, and sending them off. And they're looking at this and going, let's see, is this costing us less than a colony of bees per acre? What's wrong with this picture? So, as I said, I did this about 3 weeks ago, and it's already going out of date, maybe. Do you believe this is going to take over colony pollination? You're going to bet that it's going to take over colony pollination? There you go. So, keep your eyes open. And I'm not a nutritionist and I'm not a biologist. I think I've got this right. And the guy at the table over here,
was like, well, I got recognized. And I hardly
Why you gotta copy me? Look at the turnout here.
So when you guys get started, walked around there and we couldn't do anything to help that. So just if you get lost in the hallway, I'm sure somebody can show you back here. Convention begins at 9 in the morning.
All these things we ask in Jesus' name. Oh, and bless this food, Lord, that it may help us make it through the night. All these things we ask in Jesus' name.
Amen. Amen.
Need 25, got 25 now, $30 in the bag now, 35 now, 40. $40 bill, need 40 now, 45 now, 50. $50 bill, need $50 bill in the bag, and 45 need 50.
want to grow the
Where's
suspect
50,
pool,
50,
so
50?
go ahead and get a little clip with him.
50. All right, now the safari bee hat, folks, right here. Sure, that right there is worth having just to hang up for people to look at. Hey, $20 bill, let's go. On the safari bee hat, $20 bill. In 3 places. All right, I got 50, now 60. $60 bill, I had need a $60 bill in the back, $60. $60 bill, anyone need a $60 bill, need a $60 bill, anybody make $60?
Final day of the LBA conference, straight across the street over there. We stayed at the Holiday Inn Express last night, so we're good for anything.
Except ironing shirts.
Yeah. What?
Except ironing shirts.
Except ironing shirts.
Princess Buttercup decided to try to iron his shirt on his own this morning. Asked me to iron the sleeves to get the wrinkles out. I go over and the iron is plugged in, but it's not hot. So he ironed his shirt with the cold iron.
How am I supposed to know the thing stays on at home?
Custom designs, they sell supplies and bees, and they teach beekeeping classes. They have been keeping bee treatment free for over 10 years.
No matter what walk of beekeeping we're in, whether we have 1 colony or 300 colonies, we just really want to keep them alive at the end of the day. We want to implement something that's going to keep our bees healthy, and we want to have healthier bee breeds at the end of the year, so next year our stocks, do better and better. It's now been 30 years, a few years ago, since Varroa have made its way to North America. Yet the majority of us are still using chemicals, synthetic or natural, measures to control the mite. Selected honeybee stocks have time and time again demonstrated their ability to control the mite on their own, as evidenced by the rebound of feral populations. Yet we continue to breed stock that, and this is the important part, even with multiple treatments a year, still hang on the verge of collapse. And that's true, right? I mean, we're losing 40-50% of our colonies. Mississippi last year, the numbers that I'm hearing are 50%, 40% nationwide. That's a huge impact on what we're losing every year.
My name is Randy McCaffrey. I unfortunately got stuck with the name Dirt Rooster, and the only reason I'm up here is to carry Mr. Ed's golf clubs. I've been doing beekeeping for 10 years. I've been doing cutouts in that whole time. I've done over 600 cutouts personally. My father and my brother both have done cutouts over the years. Me and Mr. Ed have an ongoing competition every year. By the way, this year I'd like to present him with an award for, it says, Go You Bee Catcher You. This comes from Wes Fetters. You're welcome. Well, so every year we have a swarm catch competition, and every year, of course, I'm working a full-time job. I don't want to make excuses, but he's been beating me. This year we tied up at 41 each, and me and Wes talked about this trophy, and Wes went and had his trophy made, and then he says, "I got you a trophy," and I said,
So, like Randy said, he and I have been doing this swarm challenge catch for 3 years now, and the first 2 years I won it, and the person that wins the Swarm Challenge contest, the other person has to buy Taco Bell dinner. Well, Randy, you know how I'm cheap. Well, Randy's cheaper than me, and so he reneged on it. For 2 years, he reneged on it. So a couple months ago, I went and did a cutout with him, and he said, well, look, I'll buy you a nice Mexican dinner lunch, and then we'll be even. But it really was weird this year because Randy works, so I always had an advantage to catching swarms. So this year, he wasn't working, he was still working, but not as much, and he spent a little bit more time on it. And I had to work really hard just to catch my 41 too. But when he told me that the last few days of the challenge, it was like he was calling me up, I got one today, or I got 2 of them today. And every time he'd call me up, I'd be nervous. Oh man, I'm never gonna get another one. and then I'd call him up and say, man, I got 3 of them today. Oh no. So it was like for 2 weeks, we were like back and forth, him ahead, me ahead. And it wound up that we both caught the same amount, 41. So I want to present Mr. Dirt Rooster the exact same trophy that he brought me. But mine says 2019 Swarm Challenge, 628 Dirt Rooster, Master Bee Wrangler. Right here. So
Y'all lucky I wasn't in it because I had 57. So I'm going to be with y'all next year. I'm Shawi. I've been a beekeeper for 20 years. And I started out, and I had a hive with my deer stand, and I first cutout I did 20 years ago with a chainsaw. Didn't have a clue, but I got the bees. They lived 17 years in my backyard. I lost them on the 17th year. So, but like I said, I've been doing a lot of removals. I don't know how many. Well over 600, 800, 1,000. Probably 20,000 stings. Pretty much keep track of that. But that's what I do. You know, I do a lot of removals. I sell nukes and I sell queens. And I got my name Shawi by, when I was in high school, I did a lot of trapping. And that's how I made my money. I wasn't lazy when I was a kid. Everything I did, I worked for. And I did a lot of trapping, I did a lot of coon hunting. And that's how I got the name Shawi. That's in Cajun French, that's what it means. Raccoon. So, but they borrowed it from the Choctaw Indians. So, you know, I had somebody say, well, I looked it up. And in French, that's not a raccoon. I'm like, you looked it up wrong. In Cajun French, it is. So.
Somebody asked how I got the name Dirt Rooster. Originally, my YouTube channel had nothing to do with beekeeping. If you don't know, I got a YouTube channel where I do cutouts and I teach some, and we just cut up and clown a lot and just make it a fun thing, because if people are not having fun, they won't stick with it. I got people that come all the time that want to buy a nuke and they're going to save the bees. I'm going to help save the bees. I can't bear the thought of losing bees and my children, and they're just going deep and deep, and I'm like, if you don't like it and it ain't fun, you ain't gonna stick with it. And 2 years down the road, I see them and I go, hey, bees doing? Oh, you know, I quit, my bees died, and I sold the stuff on Facebook. Okay, so I just make it a fun thing, and that's my biggest thing, is just having a good time with it. But in the beginning, when I started my YouTube channel, it was totally for an insurance thing. I've been an insurance claims adjuster for 28 years. And I was setting up a channel to show people how to work through the claims process. In the process of trying to figure out YouTube, it was going to be a dirt biking channel. So I was just going to get in shape, start riding dirt bikes again. I didn't do either, but I was doing beekeeping. And I put some of that up, and people started finding the videos, and they're going, oh my gosh, this is great, put up more. And I'm like, I don't even know how you find the videos, because I'm not going to be doing this, but whatever. So I put up some more, and I just kept on going with it, so it turned into a thing. And I enjoy teaching, and most of it is not really me teaching. I'm just talking, and as I think through a process, I'm talking about it on video, so you kind of see where my mind's going when I'm doing a cutout or when I'm doing splits or whatever it is. and people enjoy it, so I just keep on doing it. But Dirt Rooster was my dirt bike, 628. It was a XR 600 with 628 big bore kit, and the bike's name was the Rooster. So that was the name of the YouTube channel.
So when I first started to do cutouts, I didn't know how to do cutouts, and I went to YouTube. YouTube's got everything, and I started watching this guy, JP the Bee Man. That's where I saw this guy, was on JP. And I started watching JP and learning how JP did it. And so once I started watching JP, then I said, well, what if they got anybody else that makes bee videos? And I found that guy right there on YouTube. And so then I started watching the Dirt Roosters videos. And in truth, that's how I learned how to do cutouts, was watching these guys do cutouts, because they had already done a couple hundred of them. By that time, it might have been close to 1,000. And so I'm just a youngster on the block. I'll probably done about 300 or 400 of them. I'm not anywhere like these guys right here. But these guys are my heroes, you know?
I enjoy every cutout I do. I have some that, you know, while I'm doing this, you know, with this great weather we have down south, you know, 100 degrees, 98% humidity, getting stoned, you know, full of honey. But you have a lot of good days, and it's fun. Each one is a challenge, and each one's different. Even though they're in the same spot or different houses or whatever, they're all the same. You know, the removals are there, but each one is a different, you know, you get to see the bees doing something a little different than the other ones, you know. But JP and I have real good, I mean, we have a great time, and it's fun. And it's not a job. We get paid, and it's fun. And I guess when it becomes a job, I think I'm gonna hang it up. But so far, 20 years, it's not a job yet, so hopefully I can do another 10 or so years. You know, I wouldn't say 20 because I'm gonna be getting old. No.
I share a little bit with you about how I got into do cutouts, or beekeeping in general. My brother got into beekeeping about a year ahead of me, and I was 40 years old before I got into beekeeping. And I didn't know he had bees. I just knew he was doing something with bees. I didn't know what it was. But him and a friend of his had gone in partners and bought a couple of hives and had done a cutout at this point. He had done a cutout and turned 20,000 bees into soup, basically, with an improperly set up bee bag. The second cutout he ever got a call on was in a 180-something-year-old building, 2.5 stories up. And I have a strong background in construction. And he calls me and he says, I need you to come help me take some bees out of the building. I said, you come get my tools, whatever you need. I don't know anything about bees. I don't want to know anything about bees. He says, no, I need your brain. I need to figure out how to get to these bees. Okay, and he just kept on talking me into it. Me and my dad both went up there and hung out with him while he got into these bees, and we figured out how to get to them. We just couldn't reach them without a lift from the outside of the building, and the guy didn't want to pay the expense, so it's like, well, you know, we're at a sticking point. This is what it is. And we could reach them, we could almost touch them, but we couldn't get them out. And I just thought, well, that was pretty interesting. And I know there's a hive in this old house on a hunting camp that we were a member of. And I called our president, or maybe he contacted me, I can't remember which, but I said, I want those bees in that old house. And he said, sure, come get them. So I went up there with about 10 minutes of guidance from my brother. And we get into this old house, just an incredible old house, just laid out in a weird way. Got the old farm sink in it. And I was like, man, this is a nice house. I hate somebody tearing it down, but they were going to tear it down. I said, I'll get the bees out. So we ended up having to cut in around this brick chimney that was angled up the side of the house, and I cut these boards out. I don't know what I'm doing. My brother's got his kids with him. One of them gets stung in the head, and he's got to go. And I'm like, oh man, I'm out here in the middle of nowhere with just junk equipment. I got this $20 bee suit on it. I don't know, somebody must have made it in a knitting class because it didn't hold nothing out. And I'm up on this ladder, I'm sweating, my suit's stuck to me, bees are just nailing me. and I'm just reaching in, just digging comb out. I'm up to my shoulder, down in the side behind this fireplace digging comb out, and I just got wore out. And I probably finished up at about 11 o'clock at night. It's pitch black. I got everything loaded up in a trailer. I get it back to Gulfport. I had 2 big boxes of bees and comb and everything. And I was so proud of myself. I get back home. I think I rolled up in the driveway about midnight or something. And I dropped the ramp door on that trailer. And I said, oh my God. The walls were just coated with bees. And I said, I don't even know what to do now. So this is the point where I figured out bees, especially mad bees, don't like brushes. Because I was brushing and I'm just getting whooped on. But I got all my bees in my boxes and I get back in. I probably got inside, I don't know, 1 or 2 in the morning. I'm getting cleaned up, get undressed, and I don't know if it was that night or next morning, she's counting stings, and it was out 30 or 40, 50, I don't know. I was just eating up all over the place. And I was, at that time, my body wasn't resistant to that venom yet, so I was kind of puffy. And, it'll go down eventually. And she says, oh my God, honey. I said, I know. She said, what are you going to do? I said, I think I'm going to do it again. She said, are you crazy? I said, I might be, but I liked it.
My wife would get mad at me because around my swimming pool, I got an in-ground swimming pool, I have beehives around it. Because when I'm in the swimming pool, I'll just lay on my little float and watch the bees. Well, I had a swarm in a nuke box on the back porch, and we were sitting out there, and all day long they'll fly out and go to my fruit trees about 150 feet away, and they'll land and stay there for about 20 minutes, and then they'll come on back. Well, I have the queen caged up, so I knew they were coming back. So they did it about 8 times that day. So my wife came out, she said, what you doing in that box? I said, well, you know, I want to keep them here for a few weeks, and then I'm going to move them to the bee yard. So we're sitting there, and she's fussing me because she didn't want the box there. Well, the bees started swarming out the box, and they fly to the fruit trees in the back. She said, well, what you going to do? I said, well, I'm not going to do nothing. I said, I'm tired of putting them in the box. They don't want to stay in the box. They can leave. So we just sat there, and I just kept watching that big ball of bees in that tree. And then when it started getting smaller, I knew they were in the air coming back. So I got up out my rocker, hollered at them to get back in this box, and sat back down, and lo and behold, they all moved right back in the box. And my wife looked at me, and I'm like, bee whisper, baby. Still today, she doesn't know I had the queen caged up in that box. You know? That was one of the best I pulled on her, but she still doesn't know.
One of the distinguishing characteristics of Shawi and Randy is when they wrangle bees, they're all natural, man. They don't wear a bee suit. I wear a bee suit. I don't care if it's a hive this big or I'm gonna put on my bee suit. Now I will take it off after I initially go in there and things calm down. But these guys do not wear a bee suit. They're into that pain stuff, not me. But I did have experience this year with one of our swarms at the Abbey, and generally when you a cluster, a swarm hanging on a tree, it's like these things are really gentle. You can go in there and start pulling them down by hand and put them in your bucket, and I've done it. So this one time, the swarm, it was a nice swarm, probably about 4 pounds of bees, and they were hanging in the tree about 6 feet. It was too high for me to grab, so I had to put them in the bucket. Well, there was a lot of bushes growing around it, and my bucket is on an extension pole, and it's not a real clear shot up there, and they were hanging on a pretty big limb. It wasn't something I could shake easy. So, but I'm gonna get these bees, and we had, since I'm at the Abbey, and we had the guys in the shop said, man, y'all gotta come watch this. This is gonna be a great shake. We're gonna get these bees in one shake. We're gonna put them in the box. And it's a swarm. I'm not going to put my suit on for a swarm. That's easy. So, so I got all these guys. There's about 4 guys watching me, and they're not beekeepers. They're woodworkers. But they, for whatever reason, they trusted me. And they're standing there watching me underneath this swarm of bees with my bee bucket. And I said, you guys ready? Oh yeah, let's do it. So I jugged the bucket up there, and there was a lot of growth there, and it wasn't a really good clean push up. And consequently, the bees, they just showered all over me. Well, it was about 40 degrees, and the bees don't like breaking cluster at about 40 degrees. And they started eating me up. Well, all these guys are out there, and they see me start jumping around. They really started cutting down the field. But now I've got to get these bees that I have in the bucket, I've got to get them into that swarm box that I put in there. So I'm trying to get these bees to get into this bucket. I'm trying to dump it, and they are just nailing me. And I still got to do this. I got to put them in there. And so by the time I grab the top of it, now I'm just covered with bees. They're nailing me. And everybody else is about 200 feet away. They're down the field. Say, man, that's not a really good idea to do that. But I did get all the bees in the box. The queen was in that. Fortunately, I don't know how, she was in there. And I did manage to catch the bees. Just a couple of these things, that's all.
I have one that JP and I, we got a call from 911, and so we get to the place, and it was a swarm of bees in a tree, and the lady come out there, and JP had on video, that we had bee problems, and I called 911, and they called JP and Shawee to come get these bees. So we looked at them, and they're about 20 foot up in the tree. So JP said, look, Shawee, we're gonna get a rope, and we're gonna throw it over the branch, and we're gonna shake them on the ground, and we're gonna go right up on the ground, we're gonna grab the queen, put her in the box, and the bees, it's history, isn't it? The rest of the bees gonna follow. So we commenced to doing that. Now, half the block was out there watching us, but when that swarm hit the ground and we moved in, they forgot to tell us that they squirted the hose on them, went down the block, threw rocks at them, chased them twice back up the street. So they were ready for us, and they lit us up. And JP said, what we gonna do, Shawee? I said, JP, suck it up, dude. We can't run. But then they told us after the fact that, well, the kids were throwing rocks at them, and they moved from there. They squirted them with the hose pipe, and they moved back over here and stuff. So, they were very upset when we shook them on the ground. Usually they don't act like that, but these did. So evidently we got stung 15, 20 times a piece. So, but that's part of beekeeping.
I got a habit of jumping into stupid stuff without researching. So anytime anybody calls me about anything unusual, I'm like, I think I can handle that. And I've never fooled with bumblebees before, but this past year, somebody called me about some honeybees in a birdhouse on their back porch, and I said, well, how big is this birdhouse? He said, well, it's about maybe the size of a tea pitcher or something. I said, well, that's not honeybees. That probably wasp or yellow jackets or something. But I was just finishing up a cutout. He was on my route back home. He said, my mom's in her 70s. It's on her back porch where she sits, and she can't sit out there anymore. I said, well, I'll come look. I come look, it's bumblebees. I've never fooled with bumblebees before. I was like, hey, I want some bumblebees in my house. So I said, I got some pet screen in the truck, and it was kind of a stiff window screen. I thought, I'll just wrap this up around this thing and just bunch it up at the top like a pillowcase or something and carry them back to the truck. And so I went out there to look just to see, when I was out there looking just to see what it was. I got nailed in the arm or the chest or somewhere around, and I was like, wow, these things, I thought bumblebees were soft and fluffy and kind and generous, and they were generous with them stingers. But I said, so I put my jacket on, but I didn't put no gloves on. I was like, I got this net. They can't get through the net, so as long as I can get to the box and wrap it up, I'm good. So here comes this dude and his mama, who kind of feeble, comes around the house to watch me, and they're going to stand back a little ways. And he said, I recorded for you. I said, would you? He said, yeah. I said, all right. Now, I'm always dragging somebody into my stupidity. And so I wrapped this thing up around that hive, and as soon as I jiggled it a little bit, they started pouring out. I couldn't get that screen bunched up enough, and they just coming out the top. And I'm talking about they lit my hands up. But I'm like, I'm this far into it, I can't let go of them because they're gonna kill that old lady over there. So I carried this bundle of hell to the back fence and set it on the ground, just walked away, trying to pick these bees off of my suit, because they weren't getting through the suit, but they were just ripping my hands to pieces. And I was watching the video back, and I was like, I am so glad I got that on video, because you can see the guy running, you can see his flip-flop. And you can hear him and his mama around the side of the house hollering at each other about shutting the gate. And I was like, that's going to keep them out. You kept that gate. So I kept those bees. They stayed at my house all season, and going into winter, I understand queen bumblebees will go out and do something to move somewhere else. So now I got to empty birdhouse. But I got my bees for the year.
So Randy and I, we both kind of competitive, and we talk a lot on the phone during the week, and we talk about ways of doing things different on our channel. And early on, when I started making videos, and I was talking with him, and he would always have his dad with him on his cutouts, and Randy, he's doing the cutout, and his dad, Pat, his dad is finding the queen all the time. Poor Randy, he'd never finding the queen. He'd Pat, well, your queen's right here, son. And so his dad kept on showing him how to catch queen, how to locate, find queens. So I told Randy, I said, you know, that's not fair. That's not fair that you bring your dad on your cutouts, because I said, I'm gonna one up you. I'm gonna bring my mom. Now, my mom is 94 years old. Now, she's not gonna be much help on doing any of the wrangling business, but she's certainly good at sitting down. So she sits in the car while I go do all the work. So she and I she had taken a ride out. I shucked some swarms, and then I was checking traps as well. And so I like to put mom in the videos, because, I mean, who doesn't like to see a 94-year-old lady? I mean, right? I mean, it's just perfect. So if you watch any of my videos, I always use the line, let's wrangle. That's what I always say. So I wanted my mom to say, Mom, let's say what I would say. I'll ask you a question. You say, Mom, what do you say? And I said, and you say, let's wrangle. And she goes, oh, I can do that. And and I remember it was Easter, and we were getting ready to go check the traps, and I said a little something or other, and I said, and I'm standing right next to my mom. She's sitting in the car. I said, well, Mom, you got anything to say? And she goes, yes, I do. I said, well, what is this? Let's wrestle. No, it's not wrestle, wrangle. Oh, wrangle. Okay. And then she said, I asked her again. I said, Mom, you got anything to say? Yeah, let's go dancing. No, it's wrangling. So anyway, she did get it on the third time, and I did put that on the video, because it really is. It's really a great story of mine.
Now, some of y'all might know me and Jeff are constant trash talkers. In our comments on our videos, or when we're shooting video together, we're nonstop just beating each other down. So while I do take my dad with me, and he's not bad at spotting queens, poor Jeff, I have to bring him queens just so he can show them on video. Look, I caught the queen. And I got the same one so many times that she got used to it. She just walk out of the cage and hold her wings up so she could get it, so he could get her.
Didn't make me feel good.
So if you look at all the videos, you can tell it's the same queen. But I was fortunate enough to work with my dad and my brother a lot. And early on, here lately, my dad's kind of down in his health and he can't go anymore, but he does still keep bees. He keeps around 60 to 80 colonies himself. My brother keeps somewhere in the neighborhood of 250 and 300 through the year. And I usually stay somewhere between 25 and 50. I do so many removals through the year, I give a lot of them away. So especially if I'm working an hour out of town maybe, I'll call around. In my phone, everybody I notice in beekeeping has their name and beekeeping in their description. So if I'm out of town, I'll call around and say, hey, you want some bees? I'm fixing to cut some out. All you gotta do is bring your equipment. You don't have to do no work. Just show up, we'll put them in your stuff, you can go home. And if I have a bunch in town or local, I'll take them home and usually set them up at my dad's place and let him tend them. But I do run enough bees to keep me busy, and I sell splits and queens through the year.
I never did any removals with these gentlemen here. JP and I did a lot together. My video and kind of, I backed off on it a lot because, you know, I'm running anywhere from 300 to 400 hives on doing the removals and stuff. And when I come in at night, you know, it's just hard for me to sit there all night long editing the video to put up on it and stuff like that. So I kind of backed off on the video. And JP gets me 5, 6 times a year now and calls me up, we got to do a video together or something like that. But one of the things with JP when we do them together is who can find the queen first. And it was just kind of a competition, and they always did call me Eagle Eyes, because I mean, I can spot her. And if we like open up the floor and we invert the floor up in the cones there, and he's setting up stuff, and after the queen walks out of my cage, and I said, look, JP, I got the cage. You know, I got a cage, and he gets bent out of shape because I didn't caught the queen. He said, dude, we never did no video yet. You never give me a chance to even look at it, you know? I'm like, it just happens, you know? Maybe I get invited to go with Mr. Ed next year. But I will be in the swarm competition next year. Watch out.
So like for me, and I assume it's for all of you all too, that keeping bees is not about the idea of, you know, you're gonna make a lot of money, you're gonna get honey, the idea of keeping bees for me is the idea that I get to work with these just simply amazing creatures, that these things are just awe-inspiring. And what's good about the bees is that they can get us to think outside of ourselves. Because for me, I always say I lose myself, who I am, in the wonder of the bees. How magnificent God created these things, and in that beauty and that simplicity, that I'm lucky enough to be able to participate in their living, you know, in what God created them to be. So for me, I'm grateful. I'm a beekeeper, and I'm grateful that I met some really great people in this field of keeping bees, and I continue to meet great people through my videos, through places like this, and going to meetings, and so it's a great venue to meet some wonderful people and to share your experiences and to hear other people share their experiences.
Shall we mention educating people? That really is a big part of even getting a removal job. You have to educate them, because if they don't know what they're paying for, they ain't willing to pay, and a lot of them still ain't willing to pay, but you're constantly teaching somebody something. And then a lot of times when you get there, they go, okay, what are you going to do now? You're just going to smoke them and they're going to come out? Or all you got to do is go in and get the queen, right? You go, no, that's not exactly how this goes. Yeah.
I had one in New Orleans East that this family bought this house, and JP sent me on this one because he didn't have time to do it. And so I get there, and they had the U-Haul truck, and they started unloading the furniture and stuff. And so I'll go in the bedroom, set up, and I come back out, and the girl comes out screaming. And I said, what's wrong? She said, there's a dead body in the wall. I'm like, what are you talking about? She said, yeah, there's a dead body in the wall. Somebody killed him and put him in the wall. I said, well, why are you saying that? She said, it's maggots all over the floor. You know? So I go in the bedroom, and sure and behold, I'm like, ma'am, I said, that's not maggots, it's hive beetle larvae.
He left, we stole his auction card. His club donated something to the auction, and he bought it back. And he didn't know about it, but he got to buy it back. So if you want to donate that to anybody else, I don't know.
Look, so this is from Terry Chapman of Guardian Bee Apparel, and he had asked me if I would bring that to to the convention to donate, and so I guess I voted.
So actually, I think Larry paid for it.
Thank you, Larry.
But we used his number and made it look like he was going to have to pay for it.
You guys got that?
We had a great time at the LBA convention, and we're finishing it off with some andouille and some, what is that? What kind of fish is it? Is it catfish?
It'll be catfish.
Okay, shrimp and catfish. And man, it's fixing to dig into this. Thank you.